Welcome everyone, Costin here on Serious Gaming with a guide for the Northern Realms faction in Gwent in the Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. How to play them, what kind of cards you should take, what kind of cards you shouldn't take, and how to defeat them, what strategies you can use to defeat them. The Northern Realms is your basic faction. You start with a lot of cards right off the bat. For other factions, you have to build the game from the decks from scratch, which is kind of disappointing because it means the vast majority of players will only focus on playing as the Northern Realms. Because even if they do build decks for other factions, their Northern Realm deck will generally be the most powerful one by far. You get the leaders the easiest because you can get two very early on, one from Merchant in White Orchard, then one in either White Orchard or Crow's Perch. Anyway, very early on you can get two of these leaders unlocked. You start with one by default unlocked, and well, the fourth one can be difficult to get, but he's also the most useless one. Why is he the most useless one? Because he's only useful against other Northern Realm players with his destroy your enemy strongest siege unit or units if the combined strength of all his or her siege units is 10 or more, which is only really useful against other Northern Realm players. Nilfgaard might get siege units worth more than 10, but that's if they have a heavy Zerkanian Fire Scorpion. Actually, fuck that. I was gonna show you, but nah, never mind. Now, as the Northern Realm, since you started them, they can be your most versatile deck. And the way their units are set up, you can play them as versatile, or you can focus them on siege. Those are your two options. You can focus on siege, go heavy siege, go with a lot of siege. You've got ballistas, trebuchets, siege towers, Kedweni siege experts, which buff your other siege units. You can go with that. And you've got the Siege Master leader ability, which you can get early on, which doubles the strength of all your siege units, unless the commander horn is also in that row. Personally, I prefer a more versatile build, but it's certainly easier to go with the heavy siege build as the Northern Realms. You have the best spies. Nilfgaard also has free spies as the Northern Realms deck has, but the thing is your spies are better. In particular, Tar is an amazing spy if you can get them. You can purchase them from a merchant. In the description of this video, there are two links. One of them will take you to a list where you can get every single card in the game, in particular Thaler, very important card for this deck. Blue Stripes Commando, siege units, all that, you can get them. Also, in the second link, there's going to be a map where you can find every single Gwent player in the game. Not named, but every single Gwent player, because a lot of cards are random from merchants, craftsmen, innkeeps, that kind of stuff. So if you want to complete the deck, it can be a pain in the ass. Obviously, getting a lot of the good cards for the Northern Realms is easier than other decks, but completing it can be a pain in the ass, as it is for every deck. So, two builds, Siege or Blue Stripes Commandos and Crimfed Reavers with some catapults. As said, I prefer a more versatile build because you can get in a situation where you can't be destroyed by a torrential rain, which affects siege units, or Scorch because your siege units have a lot of strength, or anything along those lines, right? You don't get locked down just because you have siege. If you don't have Blue Stripes Commandos, though I believe you start with one of each. One Blue Stripes Commando, one Crimfed Reaver, and you can get another one early on in White Orchard as well. Though I don't remember at this point. Anyway, I think you can get one of them very early on. Having two of them is a very good idea. Very, very good idea. Free is impressive. If you can get free, and if you can play all three of them, then that's even better. Because although they aren't really as powerful as individual cards, they have the Tight Bond ability, which when you place a card of the same type next to one another, when you place these cards one next to one another, their strength doubles. And it stacks. And it also works with Commander Horn as well. And morale boosters as well. So you can get a lot of strength from these. That's why I prefer a more versatile build. Because you're not just putting all your eggs in one row, the siege row, and you can't get fucked by something like torrential rain, right? Though you can be screwed over by Scorch. The biggest weakness of the Northern Realms is that they have very powerful cards individually. With catapults, or you can get Crimfed Reavers having 10 strength each, perhaps even more actually. if you buff them. Actually 20 strength. So a Scorch, if it lands and you have, say, 3 Crimfed Reavers on the battlefield, all those Crimfed Reavers are dead. That's their principal weakness. You also only have 1 medic versus the 3, actually 4 that Nilfgaard can get. Right? Besides Yennefer, I'm not counting Yennefer in this equation. You can get 2 with Yennefer if you have her. Now, in terms of heroes, you've got Vernon Roach, Don Natalis, Esther Tyson, and Philip Eilhart as dedicated heroes. Nothing to say about them, they're all 10 strength cards. One of them is ranged, the other 3 are melee. In terms of neutral cards, unless you're lacking in cards, you're lacking Blue Stripes Commandos, you're lacking Crimfed Reavers, then what you should go for in terms of neutral cards is get Villain Tret. I'm not going to pronounce his entire name because it's just stupid. And Dandelion. Dandelion for his Commander Horn ability and his 2 strength, which makes him more useful than just using Commander Horn, though he's vulnerable to Scorch, Biting Frost, that kind of stuff. And Villain Threat because of his Scorch Close Combat ability, which destroys the strongest close combat units if the combined strength of your enemy's close combat units is 10 or more. Very useful card. One of the best cards in the game. Though it's random, so it can be very tricky to acquire. In terms of heroes, Geralt, Ciri, Yennefer, all these neutral heroes, very much worth it. Especially the Mysterious Elf, Avila, essentially. The only hero that's not worth it, in my opinion, is Triss. That's the only exception because she just has 7 strength, so it's just not really all that worth it to use her. It's just better to keep her out of a deck unless you lack heroes in general. If you're lacking in cards in general, if you're trying to build your deck, going with Vesemir is a good idea. He's a good card. Going with Deathmold is also a good idea. Going with more Siege, also a good idea. You can get Siege cards very early on. If you're lacking in that, you can also go with Kira Metz, Sheila, Vess, Siegfried. Though it's not really necessary. Zoltan, that kind of stuff, right? In terms of special cards, 2 decoys as the Northern Realms because of the amount of spies you have is a must. It's a must because you can use your spies to great effect, but the enemy can then use his own decoys against you and screw you over. So in that case, you do want decoys. You also want decoys to be able to pull away some of your more powerful cards so that, say for instance, you drop 2 catapults on the field, right? And you want to use a Scorch card on some of the more powerful enemy cards, but the strength of the catapults is too much. So you use a decoy to pull back 1 catapult, then you use Scorch, then you put that catapult back on the field. That's how you use them. Decoys are very, very useful for the Northern Realms. Necessary, I'd say even. Commander Horn, self-explanatory, double the strength of units on the road they're used, very useful. A Clear Weather card is very useful, regardless of how you're playing. If you're going with the Siege Master, you might actually want to have 2 Clear Weather cards versus just 1. And I've gone with 2 Impenetrable Fogs and 1 Biting Frost. You may go with 2 Biting Frosts and 1 Impenetrable Fog, but anyway, 2 Scorches as well. If you're lacking cards, go with more of what you have, right? Torrential Rain is generally not worth it. Even when you're playing against the Northern Realms, it's just not worth it because you rely yourself on siege engines. Regardless of how you play, you will always have to use siege engines. So Torrential Rain really not that useful to have as the Northern Realms. If you're going with more siege, then a versatile build as I am, go with Siege Master. Anyway, I'll show you the siege build as well, what you should do then. So let's begin. Oh, by the way, the faction perk is very useful, but it kind of forces you to try and win the first round, because if you don't, you're kind of gonna lose. Also kind of forces you to win every round against the Northern Realms opponent, because if he wins even once, you'll gain an extra card. Anyway, let's begin. So what did I get? Well, I got 2 Blue Stripes Commandos, a Crimfed Reaver, which I'm gonna replace, get 2 catapults there, good. Dandelion, which in this case, I'll actually replace Commander Horn, okay. So I got Ciri, Natalis, Roach. Alright. He has Kedweni Siege Expert there. Now I have completed the quest to get every card in the game, but I never saw that one. That variant there. Anyway, I've played those 2 cards. Right there, I'm gonna play Dijkstra to get some extra cards. and I'll get taller, and I'll also play taller as well. Now I'm vulnerable to a Scorch here if he decides to play it. He passed, so what will I do? Well, I'll just play Roach and win the round. Simple. Okay. If he had used the Scorch there, he would have decimated me. I'll go with the Blue Stripes Commandos. I have no medic. I didn't get Yennefer or the Dawn Banner medic, which would have been useful. You know, this is the problem with many Gwent opponents. Their decks are terrible. The way they play is terrible. I don't think CD Projekt put a lot of effort into making these guys. It's like, okay, here are the cards I have. Which ones should I use, really? I think they could have done a far better job in terms of that. You know, I'll just play Natalis. And just gonna play every single hero card that I have. He passes, I win. Simple. Right. Oh, okay, I don't want to lose. There we go. And that's a victory. Very easy victory against the Northern Realms player. Though Northern Realms Gwent players in general will focus more on artillery than having versatile build. But because many opponents have terrible decks, well, it's easy to dominate them if you know how to build your proper deck. Scoia'tael players, ooh, they're not really that much of a threat. Scoia'tael players. I've got 2 Crimfit Reavers, Blue Stripes. I actually want to. I'll replace the Blue Stripes Commando. I get another decoy. I'll get rid of the Impenetrable Fog and get the Mysterious Elf. How do you defeat the Northern Realms? Because most of them will focus on Siege, then you need Scorch cards, or if you lack Scorch cards, go with Torrential Rain. Only if you lack Scorch cards should you go with Torrential Rain. Only in that particular situation. Otherwise, you're just wasting your fucking time. Aren't you? And in this case, I'll just play Villain Threat and destroy Dijkstra and win. Scorch is the mother of all victories against Northern Realm decks. Regardless, like even if he has, like, say 2 Blue Stripes Commandos or 3 Crimfit Reavers, then you can still use Scorch to fuck him up pretty badly. If you use his spies, use decoys on those spies and decimate the enemy. Simple as that. That's how it goes. And in this case, I'm gonna use that medic. Spawn him, kill all his melee cards, and I've effectively won the match. But now he fucks me up using that, which obviously is a pretty big issue. At this stage, I've already won the match. There's nothing he can do to prevent my victory. So I'm just gonna... yeah. And that's it. Alright, playing him again. This time with a heavy siege build, which most people will use because of how hard it can be to acquire certain cards. So it can be easy to acquire 1 Crimfit Reaver, 1 Blue Stripe Commando, besides the ones you already start with. So I'll get Trebuchet Ballista and Siege Tower. It's gonna be my heavy build. It's simple as that. Also, Kedweni Siege Experts, why not 2 of them? So in that case, I'll actually get rid of all the Blue Stripes Commandos, just to have fewer cards to contend with. If you're focusing on a specific road, then it's a better idea to... Right. I'm just gonna get rid of the impenetrable fog and get another clear weather card. Two clear weather cards when you're focusing on a single row, pretty much a must. Right. And what should I replace? Truthfully, I'm just gonna replace the Grimfid Reaver, and that's really going to be it. May not be a good idea to have two clear weather cards in my hand, but hey, I have 2 spies, so I'll get a lot of cards anyway. That villain threat, best card in the fucking game, by far, best card. Well, best regular card anyway. Now here he's brought the smugglers, so I'm just going to throw a biting. Well, actually no, not the biting frost. This time around I throw a scorch. Yeah, I did waste that. Could have brought it. But I still have the Dun Banner med. Anyway, I just wanted to play a hero because I don't want to throw any regular cards right now into play. I don't know if he has Scorch or not. Not certain. Now if there's a Squirtle, he doesn't have spies, but he can revive spies. Clever bitch. He's used decoy on his medic and he'll revive another spy, I think. It's a game of spies. It does degenerate into this if you're playing either Nilfgaard or the Northern Realms and you've got a lot of spies. This is what it ultimately leads to. Well, now we've got virtually every single weather effect in the world on the map being used. Well, no more Mr. Nice Guy. Since every card is 1, guess what happens? In this case, what I'm going to do is buff my siege engines, though that in itself won't be enough. So I bring the Dun Banner Medic, I raise Villain Threat from the dead, I get 7 strength, and he also kills his 7 strength card. And that's it. Match 1. And that's basically how you play as the Northern Realms. And if you listen to what I have to say, you will also know how to defeat them. Focus on destroying a siege. Scorch is a must. Lacking Scorch, Torrential Rain. Though that's not the preferable solution. And decoys are a must to deal with the spies. The majority of NPCs I fought against that had Northern Realms decks had Thaler or Dijkstra or Stennis. Well, actually, every single one of them had Stennis pretty much, and many of them had Dijkstra or Thaler or both. So, Costin here on Serious Gaming, signing out.